Thank you to RHI Foundation 2021 Platinum sponsor, National Seating and Mobility.
Hi again, everyone. So you just heard a little bit about one of the research studies that we recently completed here at RHI, lovingly called ICAN, otherwise known for Intervention to Change Attributions That Are Negative. So ICAN, it's a group therapy to reduce anger and aggression after traumatic brain injury. And here today we have one of our participants who participated in this study, Himayat. And Himayat very graciously, willingly offered to talk with us about his experience in the research study. So welcome, Himayat.
Thank you. It's a pleasure being here. So thank you for inviting me.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. So I guess just to get started, why don't you tell the audience a little bit about your injury and what prompted you to want to participate in ICAN?
Well, so less than 8 years ago, I actually had a bad accident where I was actually struck in the head by an SUV at 40 to 50 miles an hour.
Wow.
So I don't remember being hit. It's something that I have no recollection of. And I remember waking up 2 weeks later in the hospital. At least that's when I regained self-awareness. So I had been kept in an induced coma. Initially it was a natural coma, but then an induced coma. And it was a severe traumatic brain injury that then required rehabilitation after that for several weeks. So that was really the cause of it. As far as what prompted me to join, at the time, I had I was very fortunate to have a very quick recovery. And the doctors and rehabilitation, the people, the medical experts, they were saying it's because of the youth and the age and one's health. So a lot of other factors that can come into play. So I was very fortunate in that regard. And so that insurance was not going to cover that. So I had to then leave the rehabilitation hospital after 3 weeks. So we're talking almost 1.5 months after the accident.
Mm-hmm.
So I was still required to do certain follow-ups and tests. And those tests showed very good results. Some of them even showed, based on, I think they did speech therapy, occupational therapy, physical therapy, different things. And they said I was all basically at or above a normal person's already. So at that point, they were like, okay, you're going to have to do this on your own. So at that point, I thought I was normal, but it was later that I began to realize that I would get irritated when people would annoy me with things that might be harmful or things that would be apparently what I perceived to be disagreeable. And when that would continue, I'd get angry. And it would be more intense. It's like accentuated as opposed to the past. And at first I thought maybe it's because I used to work in a professional environment. Spent a dozen years in an intellectual professional environment, and then all of a sudden you go to an environment where you're dealing with more common folks. I thought maybe that's just kind of dealing with different, characteristics, and I'm not accustomed to it. But then it just kind of persisted. I realized some of the people that I'm dealing with, it's actually common even to the people I knew before as well. So I tried to figure this out because it's very important for me. It began to cause strains in my relationships with some people. And it's something that I would feel personally bad about. A person feels horrible because I think we as humans, we're social beings, and we need each other. It's very important for us to help each other, be needed. There are just so many aspects of our being that are just, it's part of our fiber. And it was devastating. And I would personally feel depressed at times afterwards, when I would have these outbursts or get angry. And I'm never violent, but it was just the anger that's how it would manifest itself. It's like it would turn to yelling eventually. So I tried to see a psychiatrist, and the person could do nothing for me. He's just saying, well, I would get angry too. Well, how can I help you? And his recommendation was I would just run away from these people. And I'm like, well, some of these people are people that are relatives, how can I, but at the end of the day, I was like, okay, what can I do? But I was trying to do things to kind of figure this out. I have even on my bookshelves, I have notes and things tidbits to help me. Like one of them that I really like is, just to give an example, it says, raise your words, not your voice. It's rain that causes flowers to grow, not thunder. It sounds good, and intellectually I know that's right. That's where I want to be. but the actual doing it is not as easy as people think. And that's where the difficulty is, the implementation, the actual practical aspects of being able to do that. And it's just like it's more a theoretical thing, and then you say, how do I do that? And you tell yourself, I'm not going to do that. And then situation comes up, it becomes tense, and then once that thing ignites, it's kind of hard to control that, I thought.
Thank you so much for sharing that and really kind of giving us some insight into your experience and what you've gone through and kind of what brought you here. So we're so glad that you came and participated in ICANN. So you said, okay, well, let me give this a shot, right? And you said, okay, well, I'm going to sign up for this study. And you get in the study. And what would you say, how would you describe your experience? You start the group therapy. How would you describe the experience?
I was really surprised because I was, from the get-go, from even the initial testing and discussions to meeting the team who was working with us, the instructors, it was just, they were so personable, so warm, and it was very relaxed, and I felt very much at ease throughout the whole thing. And I thought that was extremely important. But also the credibility, like when you see people, I almost felt like these people were patient, and they would listen, and they were understanding. It gives that added credibility where you're like, yeah, I like the way these people are. That's how I want to be all the time. Mm-hmm. And so they seemed like the right people to be kind of hitting these teachings or discussions. Mm-hmm. And so I thought it was very, very effective in that regard. But it was practical ways to kind of really address the what was hampering me, and I guess I still wasn't sure, like, how does this solve the problem, the actual intrinsic problem, but it was more, how do you cope with it? How do you actually, as you said, implement this, like the practical ways to overcome and deal with this in a way, and mentally as well. How do you approach things differently with a different mindset? And I thought I was really impressed with that aspect of it. So it really made me feel, I guess my perspective of things was much more open and more positive. And I felt more empowered. I feel more empowered now, whereas before you feel more helpless. You feel like, I can't do anything about this. And you just things look bleak in the long run, because you worry about things like friends, family, relationships, your future, and it just looked very bleak. And now it's like it helped me kind of gain a more optimistic outlook and more it allowed me to feel more in control.
So what would you say were the big lessons that you took away from ICANN, and how, like, do you have any examples of how you implemented that in your life?
So, but as far as like, in terms of my life itself, it allowed me to actually, on top of having a positive outlook, repair some relationships. And I think it goes two ways, and I can give you a couple of examples, but one of them was one where I was trying to help a friend. A friend was seeking advice. And when I was trying to help, I'm honest about that advice, because I really want people to gain from it. It might not be what people want to hear sometimes, but it got tense, where he started getting angry and started to attack me. Whereas his emotions coming into play, and I started getting angry, and you'd probably never seen that side of me before. And then he just kind of cut off relationships with me. And this was before, like, I actually did the sessions. And then afterwards, when I had approached him, he just didn't want to even talk to me anymore. It was a very difficult situation. But that's a kind of an example of how it affects relationships, it damages it.
Right.
And so I actually tried to use some of the things I had learned and tried to talk to him, communication, and trying to gain his insights about him and share my perspective of things. And I kind of learned that, by using one of the lessons we do is gaining a better understanding of others' perspectives and things from how they see things. And I realized he has certain vulnerabilities that he might feel, like certain things that might annoy him.
Right.
And I tried to say, like, hey, I'm just not saying anything like that. It's kind of like, this is what I was doing, why I was doing it. And now we're friends again. So it's just like, so it repairs a relationship. And that's kind of how it can affect things when dealing with others. But there's also another aspect of it that I didn't expect, and that was my own internal psychology, where I had relatives who acted in a way that were very, very, in my mind, painful to me personally. And I actually shared this with this particular example with the two instructors, with Beth and Tony, and their insights were very helpful. And you know what? It actually allowed me to rethink things without making assumptions. So what they said wasn't good, but it helped me understand, like, wait a minute, there could be more to this story as to what caused them to behave that way, the past experiences of the things. And frankly, I had like this stain inside me where at times I would, like, among my own family, like direct family, I would be like getting angry, and they're like complaining to those people, hey, what have you guys done to him? But that discussion allowed me intrinsically to have more peace, and that stain kind of washed away. Where I'm kind of now more understanding of, wait a minute, if I were in a situation like that and it was someone else, I could see why they would be doing what they're doing. It's not really necessarily something bad about me. It comes across that way.
Right.
But it's not necessarily that. And I want to say thank you to everyone who was responsible for the program itself. I appreciate it very much. It means so much to me.
Thank you so much. I mean, I really appreciate it.
Oh,
Thank
thank
you.
you. You're welcome. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely.